All right, welcome back to the Weird and Strong podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Grinsteiner. Today, I have a special guest with me. Some of you who have been hanging out with me in the real world definitely know who she is. Been a long time coworker, boss, coach, many hats and many roles. Somebody who has definitely changed the trajectory of my life in many ways. Sara Mozingo.
Hi, this is so fun. I'm so excited.
It's like those of the audience that know us already know that we do this on a weekly basis already.
We do.
This is just another extension of what we already do with different flavor, different spin.
I'm excited for that part.
So I like to start everybody off with a little weird question.
Love it.
Let's see here. Does a quesadilla count as a grilled cheese?
Ooh. My wife is going to hate me for this. Yes. Yes,
Why?
it does. Because a grilled cheese is it's just cheese between bread. And technically, I think you could stretch a tortilla into bread. Mm-hmm. A wheat tortilla. Corn tortilla would be a little weird. But
a little bit weird.
Yeah.
I mean, corn bread. You make bread out of potatoes.
There you go. Yep.
Does bread have to be wheat?
Then 100%. In my head, it does. Yes. So 100%.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Most people are like, no, it's not bread. It doesn't count.
No, it is. Yeah.
Because
I'm going to stir the pot.
Stir the pot on that one. Be a little different.
Yeah.
The other one is a mozzarella stick a grilled cheese?
Ooh, no, that's a dusting. That's a coating.
A coating.
Yeah, there's a difference there. You can't really squish them. A grilled cheese to me has to be pressed. In my world,
it has to be like
you need
pressed
that,
down.
Yeah, you need that crunch. That like. I do the same with my tortillas too. Everybody, I press them so that they get that good. Yeah.
Nice extra crunch.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's get a little bit into the background of all things Sara.
Oh goodness. Okay.
Since we're the Weird and Strong podcast, what are the weird things that define you? What are the slightly less than conventional or unconventional ways that you show up in the world?
Okay, I knew you were going to ask this question, and that's a challenging question for me. So, some of the weird things I do, I don't consider it weird, but I love ultra endurance stuff. It's something that's recently come back to my life. It used to be pre-moving to Fargo. I would ride a century every Sunday. I would just go for a 100-mile bike ride. When I lived in Colorado, we would go hike a 14er or do this crazy thing called the incline, which was just like a mile straight up Pikes Peak. That type of stuff I love it. It's my jam. Weird ways I show up in the world. I feel like that's every day. I feel like I text you before this and I was like, are we on camera or off camera? Can I look homeless? Can I not look homeless? Like, energetically though, one of my strengths is knowing people's mood before they do. Being able to feel energy is one of my superpowers, and that took a long time to understand. And also set boundaries around other people's energy. So that has been one of the things that's made me a really strong coach. Is being able to tell as soon as somebody walks in or is approaching even the building, I'm like, oh, okay, I know where we're at today. And not having to go through, like, we still do it. Where's your sleep? Where's your diet? Where's your stress? That is more so I know what category this energy is coming from. Not so much like, which one of these didn't you do? I have a good, strong idea.
Good. Yeah. With that, like, was that something that was an easy thing to get figured out for yourself? Or is that something that took some tweaking, some trials and tribulations to figure out, like, what the hell this is?
Yeah. So I can tell you where I was when I learned about what an empath was. I was, I had hired, so I've been called sensitive my whole life. Like, for me, it is not uncommon for tears to just stream down, even though I'm not crying. And it was always looked at as a negative, like, oh, you're too sensitive, buck up, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then I remember I had hired a therapist like our first or second year of opening Ice House. And she's like, well, you're an empath. And I was like, I don't know what that means. Like, I felt like this. I was like, what are you telling me?
Can you define that, please?
Yeah.
Like,
and then she was just like, well, I don't have any tools for you. And just like, put yourself in a bubble and you'll be fine. And I was like, that sounds terrible. So she
an actual bubble or
right?
a metaphorical bubble?
Like, how does this work? And so she had suggested a book. It was the Empath Survival Guide. And I read that book, and I can remember I would put it on audio and I would take the dogs for a walk. And I can remember it felt like I was on the rockiest ocean ever. Like, it was like all of my feelers had been exposed. Like, all of the sensitivity that I have been feeling my entire life and being told was like the weakness was being like shown to me in the pages of a book. And I can remember telling Ashley at the time, I was like, it feels like I'm on an ocean liner and I can see the calm ocean. And right now I'm not there. And so that was the first like opportunity to put words to it, to put language to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it frame it as, or was there a process of reframing that as no longer a weakness, but a superpower?
100%. And there have been times like I've had, so I started coaching young, and the thing I hear a lot is, you see me. And I was like, I didn't understand that other people didn't. That was the biggest thing that this opened my eyes to, is that there are people that really don't feel and see these things. And that was the eye opener. I was like, if everybody, like, what is wrong with everybody?
I was just having a conversation with a client the other day. She was talking about like internal voice, like that internal monologue.
Yeah.
And she was talking with a friend or somebody about this, and like, yeah, not everybody has that. Like, there's a subset of the population that doesn't have that. And her husband goes, well, yeah, you guys are the weird ones. Like, that's normal to me. And it's like, what?
Yeah. We were just talking about this the other day, and she's like, yeah, it's like, it's a high percentage of people that don't have the voice.
I thought it was the other way around for some reason.
I did too. I thought everybody was just going on in their heads, and they're like, no. I was like, well, what do you do all day?
Like, is it just quiet?
Right? Like, how does that work?
And, you know, if you've got a brain like mine, there can be many of them. You know, it's
15 people up here telling me what's going on.
It's like 20 browser tabs open, 3 of them are playing music. Who knows what's going on?
Right? Yeah, that's wild to me. And that people can see, and like, some people see shapes, and that means something. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Wild.
There was I had a friend that had or experienced synesthesia. Like, she would see colors with music. Yeah. I was like, that's crazy.
Ashley can get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. She keeps telling me that it's brighter when she closes her eyes. That doesn't make sense. Yeah.
And like, you know, me with a music background, like, I was like, I've always wanted that, because I was like, it'd be very easy to determine pitch and things. Like, like, for me, there's more of a feel to certain notes and keys and like different patterns.
That makes sense.
Like, it's more of an emotional connection than a sensory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Anyways,
I'm not musically inclined whatsoever. My brother is not there yet. Someday.
Yeah. It's always a skill. It's always a process.
Yeah.
We were talking about your journey in identifying that.
Yeah.
Of seeing this energy. How is that, once you were aware of it and aware of some of the things to manage it as a superpower? Yeah. What was that like? What was that journey like with how you worked with clients? Did it change?
It's allowed me to communicate better. And so now, understanding that not everybody has that same version. There are people that do, but not everybody does. And it's allowed me to ask better questions. In the beginning, under the assumption that like, oh, everybody knows how everybody's feeling. I didn't ask as good of questions as I do now.
Made a lot of assumptions instead.
Or just like brushed over it. Like, oh, okay, well, everybody knows, so it's fine.
I got it.
And now it's really an opportunity to say like, okay, where are you? And my favorite is when you do that, people get really defensive. They're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, something's off. So do you want to talk about it?
This is your chance.
Yeah. And we don't have to also, like, that's, if you're not there, that's great. Like, just know that I know that you know that I know. And so it's been really cool to be able to meet clients at a higher level. And start to meet them on their emotional side, not just their physical side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a piece there of that defensiveness. Where do you think that comes from?
I imagine, and this is something that I've noticed from myself, is people want so desperately to be seen, but they're so used to not being seen that it's like, whoa, what? How do you know?
It's almost like the emperor getting pointed out that he's not wearing any clothes.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, of course I'm wearing clothes.
No, you're not. And so it's, and then there's that brief second panic of, how does she know? How does she know this? And this is a blessing and a curse. Once people know I know, then they kind of avoid me for a little bit.
I'm going to not make eye contact and look at the floor.
Wide turn around, right? And so that's been also an adventure in who's comfortable being seen, right? And sometimes I admittedly will ask the hard question to the person that doesn't really want to be seen, because I think being seen is really important. And yeah, and I think there's something up here too. I imagine there's, we're in that upper Midwest of like, I hide all my cards.
Yeah.
All of my cards are hidden. And it can be basic cards, right? Like you could be doing well in life and up here you're not. It's odd. You could be it's a lot of times we think of hiding your cards as in you're struggling and you don't want people to know. Up here you could be doing amazing and you also don't want people to know. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, I've had some conversations with people about that, and it's a fear of making others feel bad because they feel like they have more than somebody else.
And it would be so cool if we could change that narrative to inspire.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean like, it's like we got told, everybody in the Midwest got told to be humble.
Keep yourself down in the dirt.
Yeah, so other people don't feel bad. Yeah. And like, how cool would it be if you just celebrated that in your own way? It doesn't have to be a gloat. Like celebrating is not gloating. Like that would be a great connection to make too. And being able to celebrate the fact that you're thriving and thrive in public. It would, I imagine there would be a little bit of the like, oh, they have what I don't have. And I imagine there would be a lot of like, I can get there too. I want that. I want to get there.
Absolutely.
And I imagine there would be more of that than the, oh, well, you have that. And
yeah. There was this is a complete and related tangent of, so like me growing up in Western North Dakota, my parents are basically the only thing that they listen to is country music.
Okay. Yep.
And like there's, usually a rejection of the things that your parents like anyways. I had the hardest time like with that growing up. Like I tried very hard to like it. And I was like, I tried to be like, all right, I'm going to be the like blue collar country boy type of thing. And
do not see this at all, but I love this.
Those of you who know me, like, yeah, absolutely. Like there's just, it always felt wrong. And like, there was a big part of that I saw that humble pie, like down to earth, oh shucks type of mentality that I was like, especially seeing it from like commercial country music, then I'm like, that's the fakest shit I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're telling me that guy up there with millions and millions of dollars is talking about driving dirt roads in a 50s Chevy pickup truck with a dog with 3 legs. Like, bullshit.
Yeah.
He lives in LA in a mansion and drives a Lamborghini
Yes.
with his bedazzled jeans and shit, whatever it is. And so, like, for me, there was always like that identification with like Midwest rural types of activity and people, or like that cultural piece of it. Then I was like, no.
And it's so interesting because, okay, also coming from a very small town, there are several millionaires in my town. And it didn't come off as Lamborghinis. It came off as like $1 million John Deeres.
Yeah.
Right. It was just a different, like they may drive like an older pickup truck or an quote unquote average $60,000 pickup truck. Right. But like,
I think that's a cheap one these days.
Yeah. Right. And yet if you look in their fields, that's their way of showing it.
Yeah.
Right. There's brand new tractors every single year.
Or if they even own a combine. Like, that's $1 million+ investment right there.
And I know several farmers in my area that have 4.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you're just not relating it to what apples to apples, right?
Correct,
like you're seeing, okay, they drive a newish Silverado. Great. So does everybody else, whether they can afford it or not. And when you look in the field, it's a whole different story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where like that dichotomy or that like fakeness always turned me off.
Yeah.
To that, I don't know, lifestyle is the right word, or culture. Culture is probably more apt.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that 1970s Ford pickup truck has been completely redone.
Oh yeah, it's got what they call them these days, resto mods.
Yeah.
You know, it's got actual brakes and not bottle caps.
Right.
Tell me what it was like growing up as in small town Illinois.
Yeah. So I come from a town of 400 people, and I would not have traded it for anything.
That makes my, like, what I considered a small town growing up seem huge.
Yeah.
400 versus like 16,000.
Yeah. We were, there's one main road that went through town. We had railroad tracks. The coolest part about that is it takes a village was true. Mm-hmm. My mom knew what we were doing when we were on the other side of town, which blessings and curses. I had the run of the whole town. Mm-hmm. You could go anywhere. And it was definitely I grew up in the early 80s. And so it was when the street lights come on, come home, and sometimes we would see them and sometimes we'd be like, we were playing inside and we didn't see them. Mm-hmm. But we could go play baseball. I was a tomboy through and through. And so it was awesome to be able to grow up there. We had a group of 6 or 8 of us that would just sports ball all day. Mm-hmm. And when I learned to ride a bike, I truly understood what it was like to be free. I think my first one was like a strawberry shortcake wheeler. Yeah. And then it got to be I wanted the dirt bike. We would jump the culverts. And so it was really, really cool. So I grew up with a single mom. And I had 2 brothers. One brother moved to live with my dad when I was 5 when he left to go live with my dad. And so my middle brother was he was the rules guy. Mm-hmm. and he had to be. And he probably was like, Jesus, I had to watch my sister my whole time because I was packed full of energy from the time I was born, I think. Mm-hmm. And so it was really cool. Yeah. Yeah. I from 0 to 6th grade, absolutely loved. My mom met my stepdad when I was in 5th or 6th grade. And the transition from 6 to 7, where I would have gone to junior high, we moved.
Okay.
And that's when it got weird. So we lived on a farm and we moved to the 1,600 person town. Mm-hmm. And we lived, I think we were 5 miles outside of town. And that was great. We had a little woods, again, freedom, play. The town was very much I would say the more stereotypical small town maybe of it. You play sports based on your last name, not your ability. These people are groomed to go this path and these people are groomed to not go that path. Mm-hmm. And so 7th and 8th, 7th, 8th, and ninth were really hard. Not only are you in those awkward years, I'm also awkward in a new school with people I don't know. And my last name doesn't match anybody else's last name. And so 7th, 8th, and ninth grade is when I learned about Mean Girls.
Got it.
They would write stuff in my locker. There was a lot of like, who do you think you are? I had the opportunity to play varsity in 8th grade, in basketball and, just in basketball then. And so it was how can you play above a senior type of stuff that was happening. And so that was really eye opening. I made it there for 2.5 years. I think we moved my sophomore year because I was like, I can't do this. And it worked out timing wise too. My parents ended up selling the farm, and we moved back to town. But we moved. It's funny. County lines. We moved like 20 feet on the side of the county line for me to go to the school I wanted to go to. Yeah. And so, and then it was high school was fun again. It was 100% sports dominated for me. I played 5 sports in high school. We went to state in 3 of them, almost every year. Like it was a very sports filled world for me. Yeah.
In Illinois, is it like, do they have different divisions for the high schools like they do here in North Dakota?
They do. And the cool part is our school was big enough to be lumped in with all the Chicago schools.
Oh, cool. So to get to state is a major accomplishment in that regard.
Yeah. Like we were, I can remember playing against people that are, I think now retired, but had played in the WNBA.
Very cool.
Yeah. They were super high level talent. And I grew up before the days, like AAU was just getting started, like my junior, senior year. So travel basketball wasn't as much a thing as these camps were. Like they would send you to camp and Nike camp and Blue Star and Blue Chip, and they had all these names. And so my summers were basketball camps and my school years were multi-sports. Yeah. And so kept me out of trouble. I wasn't like the party kid. I didn't drink a beer until I was 21. Mostly from fear of our coach. My basketball coach was like 5'4". She has never played sports in her life. She was a cheerleader. And put the fear of God in me, to be honest. I was like, right. I am not messing with that lady. And
that's like the shorter, the more terrifying.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I think this is where our conversation is going to lead to. That is the first, I would say like 6th grade is when I started to understand vision casting. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
For those who are unfamiliar, what is vision casting?
So seeing yourself doing the thing. And a lot of you will know. So I grew up in the biggest town next to me was the home of Illinois State University in the Missouri Valley. And I had Redbird stuff plastered around my room. And I think it was in 5th or 6th grade, the coaches came to our grade school. And that was a huge moment in my life. I was like, that is what I'm doing. There was the entire sole focus of my life in 4th or 5th grade became Division I scholarship in that moment. And the only thing I could see was my name on the back of a jersey. And I could see it from 6th grade until I was a senior in high school. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What did it take to make that a reality?
This is the part that it's interesting because I did not understand this. It became a way of life. And in that way of life, like, I mean, I've had 6 knee surgeries in that process, right? And 2 pretty major ones, junior and senior year of high school. And there was a moment my senior year where I was like, this might not come true. And there's still that little voice that's like, you're going to make it happen. What did reality look like? 300 to 500 shots a day. playing basketball constantly, and also basketball was the love.
Mm-hmm.
The other sports were like the opportunity to play and to just not care. Basketball was the thing I cared about. Volleyball, super cool, kind of fun. Didn't love the shorts. Softball was, I only played softball my freshman and sophomore year. That switched to track and soccer. And I did those for speed, footwork, and staying in shape for basketball. Mm-hmm. Softball, you got a little out of shape for basketball, so that's why it left.
Yeah.
And it was decisions like that just seemed natural. They didn't seem like sacrifices. They didn't seem like, it was like, well, this is the thing I want to do, so these are the things that are going to get me there.
The supporting sports or the supporting activity.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so it became very easy. There were the two, I'll say easy. It's fun how your brain remembers the good things. The two knee surgeries got weird. And I mean that in the struggle. Like that was such a crushing moment. I think I was 16, 17 and just tore my ACL. Mm-hmm. And when I tore my ACL, it was a career-ending injury. It wasn't something like now where they're like, 6 months, you'll be back on the court. No big deal.
Rehab it. You'll get some PT and whatever.
Absolutely. Check that box. One of my close friends and teammates was 2 years older than me, tore her ACL and was done. There was no return for women at that time. Mm-hmm. And so that was like, that was a watch me moment. Like, I'll be back. Mm-hmm. No doubt in my mind. The second ACL was like, oh crap. Because they were one basketball season apart. So I got cleared like the first day of practice, and I tore my second one at super sectionals my senior year. And so I got one basketball season before I had to do it again. And I'll never forget, I was on crutches and having a day. And my mom's like, this is what builds character. And I did not swear at my mom. My mom is like, Mama L is, we do not, nope. I took my crutches, I threw them down the driveway, and I said, when do I get to use all this fucking character? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That
character isn't helping me right now.
It wasn't. It was not what I wanted to hear.
Yeah. So. Was it what you needed to hear?
In hindsight, probably. And in that moment, I still say no.
Got it. Save that one for a little bit later.
Yeah, the timing was just a little off on that one.
The hard truth isn't what was needed in the moment.
And my mom, I love her to death, and she is a tough love lady. Like, that is where I get it. And so, that second one was a hard pill to swallow. And in that moment, so I would get, probably like 6 or 7 college scholarship letters. Like the we want to know about you. You used to mail these questionnaires back in the day. I would get 5 or 6 a week. Mm-hmm. Nothing.
Just
all gone.
Evaporated.
In that moment. Went on, had already had, I didn't sign early because they didn't know if I could return from the first one. And so usually you would sign in November of your senior year, mm-hmm. and then you're locked in and you're good. I didn't sign early because there wasn't a lot. It was like, let's see if you make it back. And so things were trending in an awesome direction. Had 3 college campus visits set up for right after season and went on them. And every single one of them was like, you'll never be the player you were. You're done. You're out. And so that was like, oof. And yeah, one day I got a call from Bradley, and she's like, I want you to play for us. I don't have a scholarship. You would have to redshirt. And technically you would be a walk-on. She's like, will you come for the summer? And I said, when? What time? where do you want me to go? And that's how I ended up at Bradley. Yeah.
Rad.
Yeah.
And starting that all off with a vision in grade school.
Yeah. Yeah. It that bug hit and it didn't go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're in the new year.
Yeah.
And, the trendy thing is to either set New Year's resolutions or goals, or to, I'm seeing a big trend into people shitting all over that.
Yeah.
Of like, New Year's resolutions never work, blah, blah, blah. I wanted to talk a little bit about goals and goal setting.
Yeah.
Because I recently hosted a goal setting workshop where I started it all off by saying goal setting is stupid.
Yep.
And
I'm going to agree with you.
he says, like, drop the mic, walk away.
Thank you for attending my workshop. This has been great.
Hope you learned something.
I know you blocked off 2 hours and we're done.
Yeah. And the reason, so why do you feel that way?
It's this like, I don't know the right like analogy to use. I suck at metaphors. There's no passion behind it.
Mm.
People set goals with no passion behind it.
I want to lose 15 pounds.
I have no why. I don't care. I don't even know if 15 pounds is the right amount of weight for my body type to lose.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any kind of plan, and I don't know what it means when I lose those 15 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
You're never going to get there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use the word never. Because you'll get there. Let me take that back. You'll get there.
Not with that.
For 10 minutes.
Yeah. Or like with that mentality, you won't get there. Or
Right.
with that as the focus.
Yeah.
Like looking at what you were doing with vision casting and like at a young age of seeing yourself there.
Yeah.
And like living the experience before you even lived it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like looking at like different goal setting frameworks and whatnot. Like
Smart goals.
SMART goals is the big one that I was like, fuck SMART goals. Like this is the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah.
This is just what it stinks to me as like having worked in office jobs, not necessarily super corporate office jobs.
I think about it as like a cubicle.
Yeah, exactly. Same. It's like, this is a way for middle management or upper management to make middle management have something to do to terrorize their underlings. Like,
Yes.
set some SMART goals, and when you don't achieve them, then
You can feel
back
bad
to the salt mines, and we'll whip you some more.
right? Yeah. And
Or
that's
you're gonna feel terrible about
that's basically what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
You're just setting yourself up for failure. And it's interesting how that's how we're choosing to do as a society, right? And it's a struggle, because if we could teach the real thing about goals and vision casting and things, like life becomes more, you can thrive a lot easier,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. There's this notion of like, you're not going to achieve your New Year's goals, and this is why, is because you can't see them.
You're set up for failure.
Yeah.
You're set up in this way that like it's keeping you, SMART goals keep you small.
Yep.
And just like Jeremy talked about the dungeons and whatever you said, that was amazing. Okay, so every quarter I set SMART goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every quarter I don't hit them. Half the quarters I don't remember what I set in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am perpetuating the fact that I'm either not good at this, not enough, or like life isn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
I am perpetuating that journey. I have lived that journey. And it's this thing that it perpetuates keeping you in the box that fits in the big box.
Mm-hmm.
And when you break free, and Jeremy and I have done a buttload of work in this area, right? Like we've done stories, we've done little kid work, we've done hippie stuff, and it breaks open the box. And so now you don't fit anymore. And I was a round peg in a square hole in corporate America. I can remember screaming at my boss on the top of a roof, because that's what my job was. And I was like, I don't fit. And he's like, you have to, if you want to stay here. And I was like, peace. I made it like 3 years.
Yeah.
And that is where, like, and I'm not saying like this isn't, everybody needs to quit their job and corporate America is terrible, because we need it, right? Like we need it as a society. If corporate America went away, it'd get real weird real fast. And finding those things that make you are the most important part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and like taking that even a step further is when we keep ourselves in this box of these SMART goals, there's a lack of vision, for lack of a better term, of like, what does it actually mean when I achieve this?
Yeah.
Like, I check the box and like, so what? Like, I don't get fired? Is that what this means? Do I get a raise? Like, most of the time that's not clear. Or like, I get a thumbs up on my performance evaluation, and then I have to wait for the CEO and accounting to deem if that's appropriate for salary increase. Yeah. Or like, if you're in the corporate ladder type of place where, you know, everybody above you is mid-30s to maybe 50, like you're waiting 10 to 20 years for them to move on for a spot to open.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds terrible too. So you don't know what's coming afterwards when you achieve it.
Yep.
You also have some ideas of what it's like if you don't achieve it, but it's not really clear to you. So the stakes don't exist, positive or negative.
Yep.
So you're
just there.
You're doing very low stakes gambling with it.
Yeah.
And then we do this amazing thing to ourselves that when we don't achieve it, we look at it as a failure for ourselves and not a failure of the system that we put ourselves into.
100%. Yes. Yep.
It's like, there's nothing wrong with you. The system sucked.
Yeah. And then that's the system that you've been, like, you started that. I mean, I can remember setting goals in junior high and high school. So you've done this all through corporate America. And then when you get outside of work and you want to set these big, scary personal goals, you're perpetuating the story that you're not going to make that. So like, no wonder there's such a fear of one, saying what you want, and two, like the big goal doesn't ever seem attainable because you can't do all these little ones. If I can't do all these little ones at work, how am I going to do this big one out here in my real life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just heard I forget where I saw it. I can't remember if it was this morning or last night. Like, a very salient quote to all of this is that the tallest mountain in the world to climb is not Everest, but it's yourself.
Yeah. And so this is something that I don't always understand. Okay. So tangent number 12. We want these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet doing the work to get them, why do we label it as terrifying? Right? So like, I took a deep dive into little kid work, right? And I went through a program called Training Camp for the Soul, and then I went through their mastery program. And it is a deep, when I say deep, I mean deep dive into the human psyche and what makes us people, and what are all of the tools that I wish we were given in grade school. Like kindergarten, here's your ABCs, here's how you feel your feelings. Boom. Like, that would be so cool. And instead we weren't, right? Like, we're called sensitive or aloof or withdrawn or all of these negative.
You're going to have a feeling, go to the bathroom and have that.
Right.
Like,
don't be having this around people.
Yeah.
Right. And so I looked at this, and this was I looked at this as like, sweet. I deep dive. I can see what's on the other side. Came to my wife and I was like, we're going to do this together. And she's like, I love that for you. Her exact terms were fuck no. And I didn't understand. I was like, does not compute. I was like, why don't you want to do this? And she's like, I've closed those boxes. They are closed for a reason. I am not going back in there. And I'm like, but like, you don't have to live there. You just go through there. Right? It's just it's like a little speed bump. And she saw it as like the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
And so it was fascinating because she eventually does it, right? Spoiler alert. And the gifts that she has found on the other side of doing this work are mind-blowing. And it's like, yes, there's the dark night of the soul. Yes, there's the, some people hit rock bottom, right? And that's what makes the turn into like, I need to live a different life. And I saw some Instagram quote in one of my desk scrolls that was like, people don't change, but entrepreneurs have to, and they call it growth. And what if we looked at it from that mindset point, right? you're giving yourself the opportunity to grow. And like you've given yourself the opportunity to be buried.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems okay. But giving myself the opportunity to grow is like, no, thank you.
Yeah, where it's like I saw this from another coach in very, very unapologetic and less than polite terms of like, you have this big vision, you have this big goal for yourself. When are you going to stop saying, "Oh, we'll start on Monday. Now's not the right time. I can't afford it." Like, how can you afford to keep going how you are?
Yeah.
How can you stand to keep going with what you have right now? And from like a psychological standpoint, it's because we've talked about this a lot recently, is where you are, even though it sucks, it's comfortable because it's what you know.
Yep.
You know, it's that current identity as a survival.
Yeah.
Like, doing it this way has gotten you to stay alive up to this point, and it's allowed you to get to where you are.
Yep.
Is now thriving, debatable. And it's where we have that opportunity to make some changes, to get uncomfortable, get comfortable being uncomfortable, and actually see what's on the other side, or actually see what we want. A major point of it too is that people don't, the negation acknowledged in all of this is that we ignore what the path is from our current behaviors.
Yep.
We look at what we're doing currently and we think that it's just going to stay the same is exactly as it is right in this moment all the time.
Yeah.
We don't see the progress towards whatever, or we don't see the end of that journey. Like I talk about this a lot with clients of like, okay, you want to make this change. What's it going to be like in 5 years when you've been doing this? What does it look like? What does it look like in 10 years?
Yeah.
What does it look like in 1 year if you keep doing exactly what you're doing right now? 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. What does it look like when you're 60 doing this?
Yeah.
And that's where most goal setting frameworks really fail, is that they don't put forward, what does life look like if I change nothing?
Yeah. That's
Because having that, because you can look at that and it says, you have this sense of this literally is my own personal hell.
Yeah.
Seeing that future.
Yeah. And, I think that's when you read the books and you're like, they talk about the nursing home people and they talk about like, what are the 5 things that they wish they would have done?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Right?
Thought about that a little sooner.
Yeah. Right. It's thought about like, what if I put my whole entire being into something?
Mm-hmm.
And, what's really cool. So something that, we've been talking about, in the mastery group of friends is, there can be a dark side to the deep work. And that is that you think you're broken.
Yes.
And that is the farthest thing from the truth. And something that's really cool that happens is like, there's going to be a time where you don't have, or there is a time, as soon as you start, you don't have to dig to find the obstacles that are in your way, right? And sometimes when people take the deep work, they just keep digging and digging and digging and digging.
Mm-hmm.
When you put your whole being into something, when you find that thing you're passionate about, and it can be, like you may have your 9 to 5 over here and this thing you're so passionate about over here, and they can coexist.
Yes.
Right. A lot of times when I listen to people talk about this, they're in the entrepreneurial space. Mm-hmm. Right. I do not believe that everyone should quit their job and start something. Just from experience, 9 to 5 can be great.
Well, and especially like I was just talking with another coach about this, that is going back to a 9 to 5, like doing things in their area of genius and in their passion.
Yep.
And also having that relief of not having to work for yourself and the expectation there.
Yeah. And that can be huge. And so I do believe your 9 to 5 should foster some type of creativity within you, whatever that is. Mm-hmm. And so you have this, and then you have this thing that you're just like passionate about. When you have that thing, and if coincide, that's beautiful. The things that are in your way, the things that are keeping you from your vision are going to smack you in the face. Mm-hmm. That's where you have the opportunity. Okay, I see that I am my own common denominator, and I see that every time I get to this level of success, I don't stay there. Or every time I started to date the same type of people over and over, and the end result has been the same. Mm-hmm. You are that common denominator. It is not them. You are finding a relationship that you deem safe and that has the end result. And if you want something different, you have to change. They are being them. Mm-hmm. They are staying over there doing their thing in their world. You have to be the one to change. And that can be a hard pill to swallow at first. Mm-hmm. And that is the thing that allows the vision to happen. Right? And it's being mindful of like when it smacks you in the face. Right? When you have those moments of like, I can't catch a break. This always happens to me. This victim thing that happens, right?
Story of my life.
Yeah, it's got to be hard. That's the thing that's put there for you to look at and say, okay, I am really good at taking a left at this opportunity. What if I went right? Mm-hmm. What if I went straight through it? Those are the moments of the quote unquote deep work.
Yeah.
Right? Those are the moments of story work, of tending to your inner kid, of doing the things that are quote unquote uncommon. Right?
Mm-hmm. I have another quote / idea. I want to see what you think about this.
Yeah.
Is you talked about piggybacking on the people don't change or people can't change type of mm-hmm. idea. Is that people don't change or people can't change, but what you can change is your environment.
Yeah.
And so, and your environment can be your choices that you make. Is who you surround yourself with. What choices do you make in partners? You know, that's mm-hmm. you're not the act of trying to actually change yourself becomes the sabotage act. Yeah. Where it's like, for me, looking back at, did I get a lot of growth in things that put me on this path of working a quote unquote 9 to 5? In the tech industry, it's very rarely 9 to 5.
Right. Yeah. We use that term loosely.
when you're on a death march for a client or for unrealistic expectations by non-technical leaders.
Yep.
Is that putting myself into that identity of who I thought I had to be successful in that was what made everything go haywire.
Yeah.
That's where everything went. When I was more comfortable with who I actually was and staying in that environment, like living in that environment, when I tried to shift myself to be better in the environment, that's where everything went bad. Or that's when everything necessarily bad, like didn't go the way I wanted it to.
Yeah.
And that's where I got really disenfranchised and upset and things fall apart. Mm-hmm. So there's that idea. And then also, like, when you're talking about when you're doing this work and finding these realizations, I think it's always in hindsight, it's always the funniest thing to me of having moments where you have these days where you're like, I'm on top, like I broke through. I've got this new lease on life. Oh. Everything's amazing. And then the next day it's like walking right into a fence post or a sign that you didn't see.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm back at square one.
Yeah.
What the hell is this?
Yeah.
And, do you think those lessons were there the whole time? Or those signs were there the whole time?
Yes. And like you and I have talked about this, once you see in color, you can't unsee.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, it's fun, quote unquote, different kind of fun, everybody.
Fun in hindsight, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the moment, not so much.
Yeah. And like you and I just talked about this week, like, it feels like every fence post lately, it's like the last year and a half has been like living in a fog. and it's the fog has lifted and now you see them all.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh, that was a great game of Plinko that I've been playing. Like, yeah, just ding, 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 ding. And so that to me is the fun part of New Year's, is the reflection part.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely
And
is.
being able to lift that fog and say like, okay, yeah, we hit a lot of them. Right. And we can't see them quite yet. We know they're going to be there. So what's the plan when they're here?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. That's the other major component that's missing from most goal setting frameworks or systems, or just even the idea I'm going to set a goal.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do when life starts to happen?
Yeah. When life gets really lifey.
Yeah.
You know, like I had no other plan but to play college basketball, and I tore an ACL. That's a fence post in the way of that plan. And
It's
so
like a 10-foot deep ditch.
yeah. And so you that's where you really have to have that vision. Mm-hmm. You have to see that above everything else. And, you know, it's, you have to, like, there's going to be a moment where you lay there and you're like, is this worth it? Mm-hmm. And there's going to be this tiny voice inside of you that says, yes. And you have to clear the space so you can hear that tiny voice. Mm-hmm. Because it's real easy to be like, well, scrap it. It's done now.
Or to listen to the likely louder voice that's telling you, fuck no.
Right.
Go back to where it's safe.
Yeah.
Go back to what you know.
And so even though I have learned that not everybody hears the voice in their head, I do believe everybody has that feeling of yes.
Yeah. There's still that, whether they hear a voice or not, there is still that internal, what's the word I'm looking for?
Like
dialogue with yourself, or like there's some consensus that you have to come to.
Yeah.
Like,
the lighter feeling, the heavier feeling, whatever that is. Like, yeah, there has to be that. And so, and that's, like you said, that's the part of SMART goals that's missing is, you know, like we try to set people up of like, what about, like, if you're looking at your nutrition, you want to lose the 15 pounds. What about the holiday party? What about the vacation? What about lake season? What about all of these things?
What about the day that you had that was just a day from hell, and all you want to do is sit on the couch and eat junk food at the end of the day?
Yeah. And can you let yourself do that?
Yeah.
Can you let yourself have that moment and let it be a moment? And that's the hard part.
Mm-hmm. Or can I have the moment, and instead of looking for the food and the Netflix or whatever it is, be the comfort? Can I find the comfort in myself?
Can I sit in silence? That's a fun one for people.
It was terrible when you got tinnitus.
Also fair, but still, yeah.
It just turns into the deafening ring. You're like, oh. And my ears are messed up.
Yeah.
Awesome. As we wrap things up, is there anything that you would like to share with the world? Anything that you have coming up that you would like to announce? Any new programs? Anything that you want us to send out in the world?
You know, the biggest thing I want to tell people is to keep going. Like, I have been in all stages. I have been in the deep start stage. I've been in the life is amazing stage, and I've been in the middle. And keep putting one foot in front of the other. And if any of this stuff resonates, this is the stuff we talk about at Ice House, which is not what people think of when they think of a gym. And these are the types of conversations that I know I absolutely love to have. I know you love to have. Mm-hmm. And so if you are looking for help with things outside of your fitness, I'd love to see you at Ice House. We have a few different options for getting started, for working with us. But yeah, love to help.
If people want to learn more, how can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, all things Ice House Fit. So the website, icehousefit.com, Instagram, Facebook, Ice House Fit. You can find me personally at SK Mozingo on Instagram. That's the easiest way, to be honest. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for being on this episode. Hope to have you back many, many more times. And until next time, I'm Jeremy Grinsteiner, and we'll see you weirdos later.